You need a new flag.
A new one. This is cutting edge technology.
I can see that. That's very creative, though. I like that. And it holds multiple mics, so you got your backups going and everything.
This is a voice I recognize. This is Mr. Pickle, yes?
Yes, this is he.
Gary Leland. A pleasure
Leland.
to meet you in person.
It's nice to meet you. Nice to be on the show.
We just met your little Pickle.
Yes, that actually is my little Pickle. That's my daughter in there.
We got the scoop.
Yeah, that's my daughter in there.
I think it's the biggest secret in podcasting.
My other daughter came with me a couple years ago to New York, and she's going, how come I have to wear a suit when I come? My other daughter just got to come. This is her first trip to the Big Apple here. We were going to go to a PodCamp. And I said, if I'm going to a PodCamp, and I was looking at the list of them all, I'm going to fly somewhere. Where would I rather go? Do I want to go to Atlanta? Do I want to go to Kansas? Nothing against those cities, but New York is the place to come.
If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Here. Yeah. Oh, that girl. Or is that Mary Tyler Moore?
Now, I got something in my inbox recently about a new release of the Pickle. Is that true?
Pickle 5 went live yesterday. Yeah, it's a brand new, it's a rebuild, a complete rebuild, where before, everything we've done, we started that site in 84. So December of 84, so it's one of the oldest podcast directories out there. Most people don't realize how old it is.
84, wow,
right.
That's psychic podcasting.
Yeah, so we started that in 84, and everything we did, we just kept building on. Even when we did updates, they were just really redos of that. This site is a complete rebuild. We rebuilt the site completely from scratch in Flex. So it went up yesterday, and this week we'll be tweaking it. And really, if you go to it right now, you really can't tell a bunch of difference. It may be faster and a little things you'll notice, but now that it's built, we can really start adding on the features that'll be.
What are the new features?
Well, one of them is, for instance, on the podcasters' pages, we have a tip jar. So if someone likes their podcast, they can give them a tip, and it goes in their PayPal account. We're bringing into the podcast site. We're trying to make it a multi-community site. Okay, so if you've got Facebook pictures, they'll be on your podcast page. If you've got YouTube videos, they'll be on your podcast page. If you've got an eBay store, it'll be on your podcast page. If you've got a MySpace account, it'll be, so you can come to Podcast Pickle, see, and use it as your complete page. I see a lot of people who sign up on our site, and we ask them for their website address, so we can give them a link, and help them out, and they'll give us a page like their Libsyn page. Not knocking Libsyn by any means, great guys, but that is not a really great website page. So we're thinking a lot of newbies at this don't have website pages. They'd like to have
the one-stop solution. You want a podcast.
If you've got a blog, you put the feed in, your blog is on your Pickle page now. So, so they don't have to go one place to see your podcast, one place to see your blog, one place to see your friends. They'll come to Podcast Pickle, and that all will be there.
Now, you've been in this since podcasting really began.
There were 50 podcasters when we started building the directory.
Has it evolved as you foresaw? What surprised you?
I think it's evolving a little slower than I thought. I really thought this would take off fast. I knew video would take off fast when it came out, but I really thought this would be bigger by now. It's going a little slower than I actually thought. I read an article and an email that I got about marketing your companies, and they had like a 3-sentence thing that told about podcasting. And I said, hey, that sounds real interesting. And I have an e-commerce business, so I said to one of my techs, hey, I don't know what this is, but we need to start doing this. This looks like this could be something. And so,
now, do you consider Podcast Pickle your day job, or?
It's become my day job. Yeah. It's not, Podcast Pickle is breaking even, and I'm very fortunate. I have a very successful business anyway that provides me with a living and pays for the techs to work on the site. And that's really my day job. But we're all people who work for Podcast Pickle are really in the back room. I have a store called softballjunk.com working on Podcast Pickle. So we're all just sitting in the back room. That's why I told someone told me about Podshow getting $25 million so far. I was going, man, and here we are sitting in the back room, 6 of us, just hammering code all day. I wish we had $2 million so we could get out of this back room.
What's your take on the whole monetization of new media, how that is and will play out, and how the different companies are staking their different approaches?
Well, it seems like there's a lot of jostling and a lot of new people coming in and out, but I really don't see anyone doing a whole hell of a lot of anything. I mean, as far as making money off of that. I mean, you've got 1 or 2 people with great shows like Rocket Boom, things like that, but I just don't see a whole bunch of anything happening. There's just a lot of jostling going around right now. And 5 years from now, all the people who you're sitting here going, man, it looks like they got the right idea, may not be here. This thing's changing so fast. So I really don't have any opinions on that.
Now, I also know you kind of went into Second Life pretty big. How are things on Podcast Island?
Podcast Island is doing real well. We just added our second island, Podcaster Island. See, we're trying to pick all the podcast words.
Branded.
And it's more of a living part of the island. But, Podcast Island, we're bringing Podcast Pickle into Podcast Island. I'm speaking today about, and that's one of the things we're speaking about, is, for instance, we have a HUD that you can wear that we give away on the bottom of your screen on Second Life. If you're familiar with Second Life, you get the podcast HUD that we offer, and it goes through the top 100 shows. So you can see are the newest 100 shows, are the podcast news. So it's all going through there. You see a show you're interested in, you click on it, and a secondary window opens up with a player, and you can listen to that podcast while you're surfing Second Life. So we're trying to bring Podcast Pickle into Second Life, and make it more a part of it instead of just like a place advertising it. So that's doing real well. I'm real happy with Second Life.
I always enjoy checking it. I haven't been in Second Life much lately, but when I do,
I'm there more than I should be, I think. But no, Second Life has been very good for us. It's just a matter of that community, and they're growing. But we seem to have a strong community. As you see, we got people wearing pickle hats here. We have a strong community in general. I've heard of one big podcaster saying there's no such thing as a big podcast community website, but we certainly seem to have one. I have one of the most active forums that there are.
And your community feels a little bit different than, for example, Podshow.
Well, my community, when we started my community, I had never been involved with a community, so I didn't know what the communities did. And since I'm older, this was the first community I was ever involved with. In most communities, people just go at it and fight all the time. And our community is very friendly because I don't care for that, and I monitor the community. Norm? Well, I go in and monitor it. Everybody just knows I'm going to do it.
So what do you do when someone crosses those lines, and how do you define those lines?
I think my community pretty much figures it out. There's no written rules. But, if you're sitting there, I'm just a 52-year-old guy who doesn't like to hear a bunch of cussing, for instance. I really don't think cuss words make you real strong or do anything for you. You know what I mean? I really just like to hear. So if I see someone go in there and they use FU, I'm going to leave the F and I'm going to leave the U and I'm going to start out the rest, and people know what it is, and they kind of catch on pretty quick. And I think my people respect me that come to my site because they know we're working to build something here, and I don't have much of an issue with it. I really don't. And if you go to my site and you go to Podcast Alley, man, this is Flame Wars Kazoo over there, and it never really happens much on my site. I'll dead or stop a forum
Do you kick
post.
people out?
No, I've never kicked anyone out. Never had to. People leave. They leave because they don't like being monitored. If that's what if their whole goal is to start a fight, can't start a fight of mine, so they leave.
What if someone submitted a podcast that was, I don't know, racist or something?
Well, we've had two podcasts. Now, I'm just talking about users in the forums right now. We've removed two podcasts. We have removed two podcasts, and I really had never planned on removing any podcasts. I was thinking I'd let anything happen and stuff. But one of them was a pedophilia podcast on how to make love to boys and pick them up. And about how that's okay to go out with 7-year-old girls and 8-year-old boys. And I have 2 children, so I really couldn't stomach that. I almost got sick. And I did listen to the first 15 minutes of it to make sure and I about got sick, so I removed that. And the other one was from a hate group that said that things, very, I won't even repeat, They were I don't mind, people can hate people they want to, but they were just too far overboard to me. So I removed those 2. But that's it. But that's not our goal. But our users were going ballistic. I didn't even know the sites were there. Our users were going ballistic. And I was getting 100 emails about these sites. And so we removed them.
Well, that helps when the community is kind of self-policing.
Yeah. I mean, they let me know what's on there. I mean, and there's been some on there people complained about that I go, well, that is X-rated. But, they've marked their site as an X-rated show. So just don't go to the X-rated shows because you have that option. So, I mean, I'm not going to mark anything out. It's just those 2 sites to me were really pretty revolting. And I think most of my users agreed with it. Yeah. And actually, when both of those sites hit at the same time, I removed them within 24 hours. And Podcast Alley removed them within a week and a half. And Podshow never did. Those were the 3 biggies at the time. And I think that was really one of our defining moments in our website is when we removed them and the others didn't. A lot of the people who were real strong in the podcast community migrated over to our site. Our site really, that's when our site became one of the regular sites was when that happened. I don't know. I really think that was a defining moment in our website. And that sounds crazy, but that's when our business picked up. That's when we became a real player. Because all the guys that these shows day in and day out, all of a sudden they start coming over our forums because they wouldn't stay with that forum that wouldn't remove those shows. So the podcast community is really pretty nice community, or pretty straightforward, and doesn't want pedophilias or hate casters, at least.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us and all the good stuff you've done for new media.
Well, thanks. Enjoy being on the show. Bye out there in TV land.